Welcome back to the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. I'm Ernest, and this morning we're going to go to an emergency call out. This gentleman's car wouldn't start at work last night, and it sounds like it may be the starter, so we're going to take one with us and we'll do a bunch of testing. But I have a system of questions I ask people to kind of determine what the problem is. It is clicking. He said it was clicking, and it's not rapid clicking. Rapid clicking usually means it's a battery. His battery is only 3 weeks old. However, a lot of people don't clean the terminals, so sometimes you can have a new battery and still have a weak battery connection, but it's just clicking once when he cycles the key, so it sounds like a starter. We'll go up there and test it, and we'll bring a starter with us just in case. It sounds like what it is, and we'll get going. All right, so here we are. Here's this G35 in question. Let's see what it sounds like first, then we'll do some more testing. But it should just click once when we turn the key. So I was expecting a little bit louder of a click. It sounded like it was coming from this side, so it could have been, it could be some sort of like lockout actuator or something, or just the modules clicking. It wasn't anything to make me think, oh, for sure that was the starter. So I want to make sure that we're not just locked out. Clean the battery connectors, because you know that can be an issue. And then we'll test for power at the starter while we're cycling that. We'll make sure the ignition switch is working with the scan tool. So we're just going to kind of poke around here for a minute and double check some things. All right, so we're gonna hook up a power probe to the battery here. It looks like the battery was shorted out, and this is a new battery, so this must have been shorted out, you know, within the last 3 weeks. But this brings up an issue of, did this cause any sort of damage to the computer because it was shorted out on the positive here? Not sure, but this is definitely something that's interesting, and we've got to take into account now that we can see that. There's this main fuse right here. That's fine, it looks fine. So we're gonna test power not only at the terminals here, we're gonna test down here on the wires, make sure we're getting power through this whole connector here. Because sometimes you can clean up the battery terminal on these style connectors though. Sometimes they'll get corrosion underneath them and, you know, cause some issues. So we're just gonna poke around up here. I'm gonna use a power probe. It's got a display that'll tell me the voltage, so I'm just gonna test around. I should be able to see if we're getting voltage there or not. So you can see here, this display will tell me we got 12.1 volts on the battery right now, so that's fine. Okay, so we should be able to see here, yeah, 12.1 volts, 12.1. So it looks like that fuse is still fine since we got voltage here. And there's, yeah, 12.1 there. So we got 12 volts everywhere, that's fine. We're gonna test down at the starter now. All right, so I just got out from underneath there, and we're getting power to the starter when the key's in the on position. That is the solenoid clicking. We can hear it's just a small solenoid, so it's not super loud, and we're not getting any engagement from that starter motor. So we're gonna go ahead and replace that starter, and that's a diagnosis so far. We'll jack up this other side, and shouldn't take too terribly long, hopefully about 30-40 minutes. We'll have this out and the new one in. All right, so we're gonna disconnect the battery, since we're going to be doing that starter down there. All right, that's disconnected. We've got this jacked up safely, little chocks in the back, as people are going to ask. We'll get this out of here. We don't need the power probe anymore. We're going to get under there with the toolkit, and we should have this starter out pretty quickly here. So they've designed this car well enough to give us some room to get that starter out from under there pretty simply, it looks like. So good job, engineers. Here's the new starter. We'll have this, and we'll put this under there with my kit. We'll get the camera under there with me. We've got a light, and here we go. All right, first order of business, we're gonna remove this plastic cowl drip pan under here. And let's grab my electric ratchet to help with that. A lot of these screws are self-tapping. You always want to be careful. You don't leave them laying around in a parking lot or something, because these are the kinds that'll pop tires. that. You can see they're sharp, so just be careful with those. Okay, just kind of look over everything under here, make sure everything's in place, nothing's leaking like crazy, so I can give them an idea. Now, let's remove this cowl next. Yes. All right, cool. Here we are. Connector's nice and easy to see right here. Sometimes they hide those and you gotta really work to get to them. This one's not too big of a deal. Let's pull that out. Get a mouthful of sand. We'll get this off. We've just got that positive cable, but we've disconnected the battery, so it's not a big deal. Usually a 12 or 13 millimeter on those, but sometimes they're 10s. It's a 12. Well, here comes the starter out. Just 2 bolts, super straightforward. It's got this little bracket for its connector here, its wire. It's attached to that top bolt, which now I've got to locate. Let's find that. Here it is. And we've just got that bottom bolt. So you have the connector, 12 millimeter nut came off of this, and here's the bad part there. It's got some oil leaking on it. That may be what shorted it out. Customer said it was going out over the last 3 days. This is actually a super nice design, super straightforward. There's that nut. It has its washer built in. The new one has a little lock washer with it. So we'll put the new one in here. And yeah, nice design on this one to give us the room and everything to get that in and out. So let's see here. We can get this in without doing anything crazy. There we go. Okay. Yep, you want to make sure you start your bolts by hand. You don't want to mess those up. So we'll get this one started by hand. Make sure it spins. Get this bottom one started. Okay, there, that one's started. I'll do the top now. But make sure you keep that bracket on that bolt. Pretty straightforward right here, super quick. I like it when the bolts go through the back. They usually give you extra room when you do that. Those two are tightened down. We'll finish them off with a wrench. And you don't want to over tighten them. That's a mistake a lot of people will make. So just make sure they're torqued down. Usually like 18 foot-pounds will do it. This one, I think it's like 24, 26, so tight there. We've got our power cable here. We've still got the battery disconnected, and we've got this. You can over tighten these nuts on the solenoid itself. Do not over tighten these. Some of these are made out of copper, and they need like 6 foot-pounds to tighten them on there. If you over tighten them, you can break them off, and then there's no way to fix that. You've got to buy a new starter. And that's not covered by warranty, so just be careful. Don't over tighten these. The new nuts, they usually change size. The old one was a 12 millimeter. This new one's probably a 13. Let's see. Yep, right on the money. I've noticed that on these new starters, they'll usually switch from a 12 to a 13 if they were originally a 12. You can sometimes use the old nut. It'll be the same size, like if you drop this one and it disappeared, but it's not recommended. Just use the one that came with it. And we'll plug this in, and man, this starter took all of 10 minutes to do. There it goes. That's in. We'll go ahead, try and start this. We'll plug the battery up. We'll try and start this before we clean everything up under here, just to hear it go, and that'll be a job well done super fast. All right, so we got this terminal cleaned up. We'll put that on there. Don't want to really short that wrench out since we're doing the positive, but I'll keep my thumb on it to be careful. Tight enough so it doesn't wiggle. Okay, let's see if it starts. Got the job well done. All right. we'll get this pan button back up underneath there and get everything cleaned up here, but that was it.